Hey y'all, my name is Aissa Dearing and I use she, they pronouns. I'm currently a senior environmental science and history major at Howard University from Durham, North Carolina, and I'm so excited to present how climate change is a social justice issue and how we need to work together in order to combat the climate and environmental crisis. When I learned about environmental and climate issues, the issues that were addressed were like sea level rise and polar bears losing their habitat. And while those issues are very important, they just felt very distant from my everyday experience. And I saw racial equity issues as something of greater priority for Durham. But as I kind of dove into racial equity organizing, I realized that a lot of our issues are actually environmental as well, and that we need to kind of take this more intersectional approach to organizing. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today, especially why I chose like history and environmental science as my majors, because I wanted to kind of combine this racial sociological approach to environmental issues. So I want to emphasize that natural disasters, natural hazards, and environmental justice issues, they don't strike in this vacuum. And what that means is that there's always a greater historical context that kind of influences what the outcomes are going to be when we talk about environmental issues. It seems as though we blame almost the natural disaster itself. We blame climate change. We blame global warming for some of the disastrous effects that populations are feeling, when in fact, they're not felt evenly and they are not, they're striking an unequal society, right? So just want to emphasize that point before we dive a little bit further into like how we remedy these things together. So, but first I kind of want to look at how natural disasters and environmental justice issues kind of exacerbate wealth and racial inequality, especially when we look at natural disasters in particular. I know North Carolina's coast has been pretty battered this hurricane season. So we look at we kind of think of these questions like who has the resources to evacuate. We look at the amount of savings, the amount of wealth accumulated over time, and who has access to that generational wealth in order to protect themselves and their families from natural disasters, and who has the resources to repair households and other precious items after a natural disaster, and looking at kind of the long-term impact on one's livelihood. For some, this is just a minor inconvenience, even a vacation for some, but for others, this could detrimentally impact the trajectory of their livelihood. But we can work together. We can do this. And what that looks like, especially for folks that look like me, is that we advocate for better policies that reflect our needs and priorities, and we vote for politicians that will commit to an equitable policies that better our disaster relief efforts and divest from fossil fuels. I see this in ways that we can work together, and I hope to actually meet you guys in the future. Unfortunately, I couldn't be at the conference because I am to you from Washington, D.C. I get this is a Zoom blur background, but I'm in D.C. I'm in the middle of midterms at Howard, so wish me all the luck that you can send. And I hope to meet you guys soon. Thank you so much for having me.